Morning, Joe. How
Morning.
you doing?
How we doing, Ben?
Doing very well.
Awesome.
Nice to have you back on the podcast.
Thank you for having me as always.
It's been a couple months, I think.
Yeah, and
January, maybe?
no masks.
No masks?
Yeah,
It's been that long.
Did we
huh?
beat COVID? Maybe.
I mean, supposedly.
Yeah.
Supposedly. I know AJ's flying. Did you've flown since you don't have to wear a mask?
Yeah, so I was in beautiful Northwest Arkansas last week, and first time on a flight with no mask. Survived.
Everyone made it.
Who knew?
Ironically.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think I flew like a day or two after that was dropped, and literally 2% of the people were still wearing a mask. Like everyone just dropped it. Everyone was better done with it.
Flying with a mask is kind of a long day.
And if you're sick, I get it. If you're sitting next to someone that's coughing and put a mask on, so be it. Like it's kind of normalized it in society, I think.
Right.
But it's nice to not have to wear it anymore.
Amen.
I know you've been traveling. We've had a lot of trade shows that we've been at, both jointly as well as a lot of shows you're doing individually here recently. Yep. So I know you've been all over the place talking to all kinds of different people on the world of logistics these days.
Been a busy couple of months. My pregnant wife is thrilled to maybe have a little bit of a common.
Yep.
But it's been busy.
What's the state of logistics these days?
Busy.
Yeah.
It's still quite busy out there. Obviously going to as many shows as we've been, a lot of new prospects, a lot of new opportunities, trying to get through all of those in a orderly, professional fashion. So, it's been great. Obviously, growing is always a good thing. Yep. But doing it in a nice, refined manner is kind of our focus, and making sure we're not missing opportunities, dropping customer service, while still growing our carrier base as well.
Yeah, I think the last time we had you on was around the beginning of kind of the whole Russia-Ukraine war situation, which drove crude oil, natural gas through the roof, which then impacted fuel surcharges. Obviously, a big topic on the freight side of things. So, been a couple months since then. I think the fuel surcharge thing has been less of a topic, but I know has remained at kind of historical highs. But what's the update with truck freight and how the fuel surcharges are impacting your guys' day-to-day?
So we're starting to see capacity come back, pretty well. Tender rejections is the hot word right now in all the supply chain world, especially on the dry van sector. Tender rejection is usually a pretty good indication of kind of where capacity is at. So right now, tender rejection is on the downslope, and
that's the number of like bookings that you guys are requesting that are getting rejected.
Correct.
Is that what that means?
Yeah. So as most carriers are not rejecting as many tenders. That's a pretty good indication that capacity is on the rebound. Combating that is diesel prices at record highs that continue to be at record highs, and that's certainly pushing some people to make certain decisions as to how they want to move products, stage products, store products,
sure.
All that fun stuff. So we're certainly seeing diesel, which we think is going to start to come down, hasn't really come down as things are lingering over in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting. And obviously fuel surcharges, I think the last update we saw this week, something like 50-55% in the U.S. and up to like 75-85% coming out of Canada.
I think 86% out of Canada, which is
incredible.
Unreal, yeah. They're skyrocketing at a rapid rate. We're holding kind of low 50s right now, but it's still, you go to the pumps and pushing almost $6 in diesel it's tough.
Coming from historical norms of what, like 25, 30%, 35%?
Yeah, I mean, so 4 months ago, 5 months ago, we're mid-20s, maybe low 30s. Yep. That's a big jump.
And we're sitting at, would you say 50, 55% now?
Yeah, we're mid-50s right now, and doesn't seem to be slowing down.
Yeah. And so that fuel surcharge, I guess, I know we mentioned it last time, but if you're not familiar, so if the line hauls $1,000 and the fuel surcharge is 50%, that makes it $1,500 all in, more or less.
That's the math.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, I mean, a direct impact to, the bottom line, to people's logistics costs.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's a big factor when you look at certain moves. I think when we're talking about maybe a less expensive commodity,
sure,
and all of a sudden you're lumping on 50% fuel on top of that,
yep,
that definitely impacts certain decisions.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm sure, you mentioned earlier, people reevaluating some of the logistics channels. I know two ways people might be able to do that is moving things LTL, so maybe moving some smaller shipments to try to improve freight rates, or go the other direction and look at more rail freight.
Yes.
I know two things that TLC is big in. How has, obviously it's two opposite ends of the spectrum, but how's those various modes of transportation been?
Yeah, so I think, that thought process right there is a pretty good example of exactly what people are looking into and exploring that they may not have explored before. LTL, transit times was an issue, especially coming into the new year. We're seeing those start to come down a little bit. The congestion seems to be coming down a little bit. Rail, however, as more of these longer hauls become more and more expensive via truck, a lot more customers are starting to explore if intermodal is a better option. So we're seeing that some of the pricing from 2-3 months ago that was more competitive is starting to maybe distance itself as a more competitive option as the rail's starting to catch up as trucking continues to raise with the fuel impacts.
Yeah, it obviously adds new layers of congestion to it. I know, from the TCC side of things, we're looking at utilizing rail to almost act as like a mini short tank in tough to reach areas, but then you got to put that rail car somewhere and then obviously manage truck shipments from that rail to the customer, which is shorter than doing a truck all the way, but you still got to figure that logistics lane out and make sure you have partners there and whatnot. So.
Absolutely. And I think, to your point of, the liquid side of things, liquid is always slow to catch up to whatever's happening within the dry van sector. So as much as we're talking about tender rejection and the dry van, liquid bulk still is usually 6 to 8 months behind any sort of market adjustment. So capacity in the more liquid bulk realm is quite a ways off as far as opening up capacity. But that doesn't mean we're not still searching for every avenue to provide options and do exactly what you just said, which is if it's easier to move it via rail and get, a liquid tanker on it that can do, a couple runs, then that's probably more appealing to a carrier than doing that 750-mile one-way trip and taking someone out of the mix for 3 or 4 days. Yeah.
And something we haven't really got into too much in the past, I know we've talked about LTL freight in the past. Obviously, a big part of that includes having material package to be able to then move LTL.
Absolutely.
I know a big part of TLC's business is helping with transloading and repackaging and things like that, which obviously includes buying and availability of things like IBC totes and steel drums or plastic drums. Something that hasn't really historically, I think, been an issue is obviously availability of those things. If you want something packed out, you order the drums, you order the totes. A week later, they show up and you transload. Not necessarily the case anymore. And that's, I guess, been a interesting topic and has added some delays as well with just the availability of these physical things.
So again, I think this and a lot of distributors have realized since the beginning of COVID, if you have the material, you're probably ahead of the game in most situations, right? So having some packaged material to at least get to an end user can certainly help. Like anything, we're usually asking for the best amount of lead time as possible. Availability, we have great partners within the drum and tote world. They provide really fast turnaround, especially with when we forecast and have accurate forecasts to them. If we're looking for anything specialized within the totes, drums, packaging world, usually that's going to require a little bit more of a lead time, but certainly something that we can always assist with.
Yeah, something that we got more and more into the packaging side of things. I think with COVID and logistics issues and stuff, people wanted emergency inventory on the floor and whatnot. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, that's all good and great, but it's going to be 3 weeks to get totes. Like, what do you mean it's going to be 3 weeks to get totes? Or we've heard customers, especially if you're not doing a ton of packaging, that you can't get. I mean, we get the power of economics by doing a bunch of it, and you guys obviously are in the same boat. But if you're a brand new to packaging and you're calling guys for the first time saying, hey, I need totes, they're like, well, sorry.
Yeah, we have a pretty good stock of totes. So our turnaround time's pretty solid. If you need a specialized tote, steel cage tote or certain fittings or anything to kind of, assist with your end user, that's usually when we need a little bit more of a heads up.
But again, I think a big positive to working with a company like TLC is obviously you guys have the power of economics. You're buying 100 totes a month, whatever it is. So rather than if you're a company that only needs 10 totes a month, you get that buying power that you guys have. So a great avenue for TLC.
And exactly. We'll usually have a pretty good stock of that.
Yeah. I know the last thing we usually talk about is the status of ports, imports, exports. I know ocean freight continues to be interesting. We talked a little bit on the TCC side of things on the status of things like the Port of China, which obviously has some COVID concerns and shutdowns and whatnot. How you guys dealing with ports and things these days?
So we're starting to see that a lot of the drayage companies we're typically reaching out to have some better capacity. It's not nearly the laughing us off, asking for 2, 3, 4 weeks out. Usually they're finding a way to get us in. The ideal is just having the heads up from the shippers as far as what that free time is and allowing us to work within that. sometimes when we hear, oh yeah, last free days tomorrow, can you get it out? That's challenging,
Not
right?
great.
Yeah, challenging.
Yeah.
At certain ports, we still can make miracles happen. But we're starting to see that at least drayage companies are coming forward with a lot more availability, flexibility as far as when certain receivers can take containers or shipments and working within kind of those guidelines, whereas it used to be a little bit more of the, well, this is when we can do it. Does that work? Type of a deal.
Yeah, I think we've talked in the past about that idea of making your freight as appealing as possible, whether that's, having certain requirements maybe loosened up a little bit, or giving people as much heads up as possible, not saying, hey, we need this picked up tomorrow, give us a week, give us 10 days, whatever it is, to try to make things work. So.
Absolutely. And I think even as the environment starts to open up, that's still an ongoing thing, right? I think that's when you open yourselves up and you're going to get the most competitive rate possible when you don't start lumping on certain requirements. Right.
Well, Joe, appreciate having you on. Good to have you on the episode again.
Absolutely.
What's coming up over the next couple of weeks and months, both on the show front, where people can find you, as well as, if people aren't traveling yet, how they find you online?
Yeah. So traveling, we'll be at the Charleston show, the Specialty and Agrochem show down in Charleston end of June. Be a fun one. And then online, logistixco.com. Any inquiry, feel free to reach out. I'm sure they will always throw up a link as far as our email and all that good stuff. But looking to help out as many people as possible.
Yeah. Whether you're streaming this on the video version, you can see Joe's face right here, or on the audio version, wherever you can scroll down, we'll have Joe's email and obviously the website. So feel free to scroll down and reach out via email or website to get in contact with these guys. Appreciate having you on again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.